us. Welcome to the afternoon security training. If you do have questions, since there's an issue with mics and things, feel free to put it in the chat. As you can see, we have several of our members of our PowerSchool team here today. So we'll all be walking you through this basic security training. So with that being said, I do want to let you know this is just the basic training in security. We do realize we are using a train environment with fake data. So we do want you to know that your system, if you have your data open, it may not look the same as ours looks. We have a lot of information in our test environment that you may not see in your environment. So just be aware of that when we're going through this training, especially because a lot of your settings are going to be personal to your district. So a lot of the settings are going to be only restricted to what you want to see in your district. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and get started. I do have, sorry, Christine and Chris and Sally, I didn't introduce my team here. So Christine Cartwright and Chris Townsend are here to help me with security training. And then Sally Reddick is also here as well. So sorry about that, guys. Didn't mean to forget you there.
Hi, everybody.
All right. So we're going to get started here then. And I'm going to share my screen so we can look at our test environment. And just making sure, can someone just confirm that you can see my screen?
Yep,
I can see it. You can see it. Okay, awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So what we're going to start with today is we're going to start here at the district office. You can see I'm in my 25-26 year of our train database. And we're going to step right into the security settings. So we're going to go over here on your left to system management, to security. And we're basically going to go right through this list in security and let you know what each of these pages mean throughout the system management. So we're going to start at the top here under the access column. We're going to start with current users. Current users to me is pretty self-explanatory. These are the people that are currently in your system. It does give you the type of what type they are listed underneath of as a user. You can see that all three of us are signed into this environment. The sign-in date, it does give you a sign-in time, how many times, the last date that they signed in, and so on. So you can see here that this might be pertinent information if maybe you're trying to do something in the background of your system and you just need to see who's logged on. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but that is very useful throughout your day-to-day uses within security. We are going to skip over the OIDC in the LDAP as that is covered in a different, in a separate training with Meta. So we, with that being said, I do want to just let you know we are having many upcoming trainings. I don't know the dates of all of them, but we are having some power hours coming up on lots of different subjects. And so I do believe that we do. I don't know if we do have another OIDC one coming up, but definitely check our Meta website, our new Meta website, and you can see some of those trainings on the OIDC. So let's move right on to the review sign-in attempts. So as we go down our list here, you can see as on the review sign-in attempts, this page is mainly used to audit and monitor your login activity. It helps you as administrators identify the potential security issues, some unauthorized access attempts, or just repeated login failures. So you can see those here in the review sign-in attempts. You can see that the filters here below, you can filter by start and end date. You can filter by your IP address if that's something that you use. You can use the user type. If you see the drop down, you can see there's different user types that you can filter by. And you can also filter by username. So if you're looking up a specific person, you can filter by that username as well. Your login results, you can do all results, invalid or successful. You can see the minimum valid attempts. So you can set a threshold to show only users with a certain number of failed attempts. You can use that for that. And then your failure type, you can choose all, invalid username or invalid password. And then once you search on that, it will give you those lists of all the people that have sign-in attempts under those filters that you have set there on this page. Okay. All right, so going back to system management security, under access, we are going to go to unlock accounts next. And this unlock accounts page is used to manage user accounts that have been locked, mostly due to repeated failed login attempts. It does help you quickly identify and resolve access issues for users with different roles. So you can see here users that have tried several times to get into the account and cannot get in. And you can use this by, if you want to look at all, you can use it your tabs up here at the top, or again, you can just go through and check for your admins, your teachers, your parents, your students. So if you're particularly looking at one of these, you can just use the tabs above. Again, if this was an active environment and we were live, you may have, several things listed here. So those tabs do come in handy. Once you see that it's unlocked. Okay, go ahead.
No, sorry. Finish up here. I thought you were pausing. There was a question from you earlier, something you went over earlier with the current users.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Barb said they are on a server array. How can they see all their users? And I thought that they could go in the same way, but she is saying that it does not show all their users. And I'm not really familiar with that. So I'm not sure how they would see the rest of their users.
Server array. So, like, for example, Crystal's sitting across the room from me, and she's on PowerSchool, but she doesn't come up on my users. So I've never known a way for us to see all our users at the same time.
Are you under the district? Or are you under the? You are under district.
We're both working in district right now.
You're both working in district right now? Okay. I don't know the answer, but I will find out for you.
I'll make a note.
I'm not really sure why. You should be able to see all your current users on there.
I'm told in the past it has something to do with the server array, and they're hitting on it. She's probably hitting off a different server than I'm hitting off. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
The correct technology or terminology.
You and me both.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that is definitely something we can check into. I don't know the answer to that, but we'll certainly find out and see if there's something that we could do about that for you in the future. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? I guess I just start talking and then I just can't stop. So stop me whenever. Okay. I just am on a roll and I just keep on going. So okay. So let's just continue then with the unlocked accounts. So you can see here that this person is logged in. They've been locked out after 10 invalid attempts. And to unlock, all you really need to do is just press the unlock, or if there's several listed, you can unlock all the admin accounts that you see listed here. So when somebody calls you and says, I can't get into my account, that's probably because they've had too many failed attempts and you need to go in and unlock the account. Okay. Remember too, though, when you do an individual unlock option, it does not reset the password. Users must still know all their credentials and everything like that. You're not resetting a password. All you're doing is unlocking the account. So the user does need to know, their password and username. Okay. Let's go back to system management security, and we're going to move right along with page management. And we're going to start with configure page permissions. And I know we're going to cover a little bit of this later. I know Christine is going to cover some of this, and maybe even Chris, but this is page permissions for all groups. So just remember that when you're changing anything here, you're changing this for all groups. Okay, it's used to manage access to specific pages for different user groups. So it's a key tool for ensuring that users only see and interact with the parts of the system relevant to their roles. So that's basically why this was created. When you see up here above, you can see context. If you drew a drop down, you can see that you can look at the school or the district or both at the same time. So just remember that if you're specific to a specific school, you can just look at that particular school. And then as you move on to the right, you can see pages. You can look at the main pages, student pages, staff pages, or plugins. If you do want to use the search bar, you can search by title or file name to quickly locate a specific page. So as you can see below here, when you expand any of these pages, you can see what's in the pages. So I'm going to actually collapse all of these again, and this is what you see when you first start on this page. If I click into attendance, I will see the pages listed below. And then if I click into attendance management, I'm going to see everything that is pertinent to attendance management. Those are their like subcategories, I guess. Once I click into one of the subcategories, so I'm going to say that I want this group, I want to see what groups have page permissions for this particular page. And I can see here that it's the group default. So if the group default is edit, which is E, and I wanted to change one of these groups, I could do so here. There is another place that you can do so as well, but you can do it through configure page permissions here if you choose to do so. So again, you're probably seeing a lot of different things here on your environment than we're seeing on ours, especially the groups and roles, because those are going to be specific to your district. But I just kind of wanted to show you where you can do this. You can search for groups on this pop-out page, or you can select all groups to a certain level on this page as well. I particularly don't recommend setting all groups at any point to the same access level. The only reason is there might be people in that group that you want to specifically give a certain role to. And, so I individually look at the groups when I do that. But if there's just like access to just your main page, that's where you would give everybody access, all groups access. Okay, I'm going to cancel out of there because I don't want to give anybody specific access right now. I do want to emphasize something here. I want to emphasize the importance of the least privilege. Only grant access to what's necessary to people. So when talking in the big picture of security, and I'm sure that you know this already, you just, from being in the district and be able to access these pages, but especially with all of the security issues that are happening around the world right now, just make sure that you are only granting the access to what's really necessary for that particular group of people. Okay. So that's what you can do from here. And again, there's all these different categories with subcategories. Your obviously your nurses, you would want to look at the health. Maybe some of your schedulers would need access to particular things within courses and programs. And again, that there's student pages down here where, it gives the same information, but with different subcategories. So again, look through that. Like I said, it's going to be just your specific district with specific groups and roles that you're going to want to give access to within your management of the security system. Okay. I'm going to go back to enable page permissions. And here on enable page permissions, this is used to activate or deactivate your permission settings for specific pages within PowerSchool. It's basically controlling what users can see and do across the platform. So as you can see above, you have the option to turn on or turn off your page permissions. I'm going to turn mine on and show you kind of what it looks like on different pages. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my page permissions on, and you'll immediately see this yellow notification at the bottom, modify access privileges for this page. So I'm going to go to the next page, and I'm just going to kind of show you some things within our field level security page, and I'll show you kind of how this plays a role in that. So once I switch to a different page, I'm going to go to our field level security. And I'm going to show you that this field level security page, if I click on this modify access privileges for this page, I can tell which groups over to the right here at my pop out. I can tell you which groups have edit access, which groups have read-only access, and so on. So if I'm looking for my counselor to be able to access this page, I can quickly look and see my counselors have a group default of edit access. If I want to change the access here, I can do that here. So you can do this once your page permissions is on, you can go through any page and look and see who has access to that page and who does not. Again, and Christine is going to get real specific with roles later. And it's going to be, again, specific to your district, but sometimes people look in here and say, you know, my counselors should have edit access to this, but there's one thing on this field level security that I don't want them to have access to, and that would be taken care of through those roles. So, you know, this is a level of access is group access, not individual access.
Can I add something on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that troubleshooting wise, we tend to get tickets that you want to give access to a certain page to somebody, and you have gone through your configure page permissions and, you know, marked it so that they have access to it, and they're still not able to see that page. They're just not able to see that page. I find it really helpful sometimes to do this, which was kind of the old way of doing it, enable page permissions, because sometimes the pages are stacked and it might be one page as you're clicking into pages that is blocked. So if you go here, you're directly on the page that you want to look at and you want to see if they have access to. I've just found it handy sometimes.
I'm glad you said that, Christine, because I do get a lot of security cases as well. And I know this is, like Christine said, it's kind of the old style way of doing it, but you're directly on the page. You're looking at the page that you want to know who has access to it. And so, yes, thank you, Christine, for pointing that out.
Oh, you're welcome. Sometimes that other screen just gets a little intimidating with the amount of information that's on it, the configure page permissions.
Correct. That's exactly what that's exactly why I always revert back to this, it seems like. So
the other page is wonderfully efficient, but this is a great way to get very like incremental and granular with it, and just make sure that you're not getting, like you said, kind of lost in the sea of options with those field level. Yeah.
When you're saying that, are you talking about field level security or the modify the page permissions page?
I'm talking about modify access privileges. I'm just kind of showing you how this works. I just kind of went to our next page.
Security page. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to actually go back into my enable page permissions, and I'm going to turn that off. So I don't give someone access that I shouldn't be giving access to.
And again, and I think you may, I can't, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you mentioned this or not again, that when you turn that on, it is only turning it on for your instance. It's not turning it on for like everyone in admin or anything like that.
Correct. So
just,
Barb
just,
and Melissa, if you're both turning it on, or if one of you turned it on and the other one didn't, the other one can't tell that you have it on. So it is only user related. Okay, so now we're going to talk field level security. So this allows administrators to control access to specific fields within your SIS. It ensures that that sensitive data is only visible or editable by authorized user. So it's configured through your groups and roles, and you can restrict the view or edit access to fields based on user roles. So most user roles, again, are building specific as well. So, you know, and I know Christine is going to get into this kind of a little bit later. She's going to get into all the security groups and the roles and how they fit together. So, you know, a lot of this will be talked about later, but I just kind of wanted to show you this page, show you a couple things that I found useful in the page. You know, once you create, and I know that you kind of probably already have your security groups set up, but once you create or edit your security groups, this is where this field level security comes into play. So right now, I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to go to one of our medical alerts here, and I'm going to click on the edit button over here, clear to the right. And when I choose that, I see that user access security. I can see whose role has access or has edit access, right? Again, you're probably going to see a lot of things here. My test environment, I'm just showing, has the role that the only role that has it is the counselor role. I can also see that my plugin security, the only thing I have attached to this is this data sync, and that has a read-only access. Again, this all plays in with all of your security groups and your security roles. But when I click on that, I can choose to have everyone else set at a certain edit, a read-only, or no access here. This is, you know, something that I probably wouldn't do again. I would be, because I would be it'd probably be just a little more secure if you took it through the groups and roles versus getting everyone access through this field level security page. I don't recommend it, is what I'm trying to say. But you can see that all the fields are listed here. All the tables that the fields are found in are listed here. And it does note if you do have some type of field security regarding that particular field name and table. It does show that with a green check mark. You can add here. You can choose a table. And you can add specific fields that you want that security to be to show on your field level security. So if there's something specific, you can go ahead and add that. And then you can go to it and set up which groups and roles you want access to. Again, I would do that through groups and roles.
Yeah, I've had tickets where with the, what is it, the FN tab or the FD tab, I forget which one, but just EMIS related information that doesn't need to be out there for everybody to see. So they'll come down here and they'll lock that field down, but just open it up to, you know, whatever role that they want to see that information. So it's just really layered security in this instance.
And I think that everybody here can see that this being so specific, if I could talk today, specific to your district, you know, today we are just going over, you know, showing you where the pages are, how you access things in those pages. But we always encourage everyone, if there is something very specific to your district, to reach out with us on a case. You know, you have something that's very, I guess, unique, and you just want to maybe assign a person to a group, but you only want that person to have very, very specific roles, or, you know, in security within very, very specific fields. And again, that would be something where you would open up a case with us and we would work one-on-one with your district and getting you that very specific role and group in field level security for that person. So again, this is so broad here today, but if you want something very specific, we'll be happy. Any of us on this call would be happy to work with you on a case, on those very, very unique situations within your district. Okay. So with that being said, we're going to move on to password management. So we're going to go to password rules. Everybody loves passwords nowadays. Everything's password locked. Under the password rules, if it ever comes up here on my computer, it's nice and slow this afternoon. There we go. You can set different password management. This is secure for students, teachers, and administrators. It allows the administrators to define password policies and manage credentials throughout the district. So if you can see here that you have your password complexity rules. You can set those rules for students, admins, and teachers, and parents. You could set the password length. You can note that the password must contain one uppercase, lowercase, special character, numeric character. You can do that with this checkbox here. You can set a number of days in which the password expires. So you can set 0 to it never to expire, or you can have everybody, you know, your admins and teachers must do it every 30 days. I don't know what your district requires. You can set the number of cycles before a password can be reused, and you can set the number of invalid attempts against a username before locking out that user. So again, this is set by specific students, teachers, and admins, and then parents. And I love this because you can, pretty much regulate when everybody has to reset their password, which is a big source of security right now.
Kim, I think Barb has her hand raised, I think.
Yeah, she had her hand up.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
We don't have on our instance the student column or the student password. Is that because we're doing the OIDC?
Correct. Yeah, because you're using someone else for your identity authentication. Okay. It's not you're not using a password, so it's not going to utilize that for lockouts.
Our admins and our parents. Gotcha.
Correct. Okay. These password rules are specific to within the with PowerSchool acting as the identity provider. So if you have your admins set to log in through utilizing a PowerSchool password versus students that just go through Google, then yeah, that's where you're going to see those differences.
Yeah, sorry, Barb. I should have actually said that at the very beginning.
I just don't know how to unraise my hand at this point.
I thought you just clicked it again.
We're just giving us all high fives. It's okay. It's okay. We'll take the high fives. Okay. All right, let's move down to system. We are not going to configure our LDAP, and we're not going to use the, actually, I am going to talk a little bit about the IP address restrictions, but I'm going to skip over the LDAP. And here for the IP address restrictions, these are used to control where users can access PowerSchool from. So based on their device's IP address, you can control where they're using it from. This, if I click into new here, I can type in the IP range the start and the end of the IP range, and I could submit. And then you will see that once you click into that, if you put an IP address in there, it will ask you to allow or deny access. So once you type that in there, it does ask you, you need to choose whether you want to allow that IP address or deny that IP address. So it's just another level of security within those IP addresses. Okay, sign in attempt restrictions. Here's where you can set the sign in attempt restrictions. So you can set your failed login attempts to whatever you want here. You can also send security emails to, a lot of people send the security emails to your tech coordinator at your districts. And those people are the first to get notified. Hey, somebody's trying to log in from this IP address. And then that's where, they usually take another step, within your security within your district to find out what's going on, where, somebody's trying to attempt to log in and so on. But right here is where you do that sign attempts. Do you have something to add, Chris?
Yeah, I was just gonna give a fair warning on this. This is a cool feature when it comes to, just having that extra layer of security, but you kind of have to be a little bit careful depending on your school's network setup. So sometimes a school will have IP addresses, like they'll have multiple teachers that might be connected, but they all end up connecting through just a handful of IP addresses. So, an IP address is assigned. We've run into issues before where, a district maybe has, maybe only has like a handful of IP addresses that actually communicate to the PowerSchool servers, but then all of the teachers are connected to a Wi-Fi network that then communicates everything through that singular IP address or handful of IP addresses to the server. If you have this set up real low, and let's say you have 4 different teachers, like this one set at 5 attempts, and maybe you have 4 different teachers that start putting in the password wrong, well, it's seeing a wrong password attempt from a singular IP address multiple times, and that can stack. So just be aware of that if you're setting this. If you set this and all of a sudden you start having now 5 teachers can suddenly not log in. Well, that might be a heads up that there's something going on there. So just be aware of that setting when if you do opt to turn it on. It's great from a security perspective, but it can bite you. So
thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
And Chris is involved in a lot of our implementations. So actually you probably give that spiel too, Chris, don't you, when everybody's coming on board and
it's a warning when we're going over it during configuration, like, hey, you
right.
can configure this, it's great, but it can get you. So
it can get you.
It's a good warning. Now, were you going to go over the review disabled IP addresses? That's another troubleshooting. If somebody did put too many attempts in, yeah.
Yep. Thank you for reminding me. I was about ready to go to our next.
Yeah, I saw you were going to click away.
I get click happy too, as long as and talk happy and chat happy. So the following IP addresses have been disabled because they exceeded the max number of invalid attempts. So here you can see that you may have a list, obviously a lot longer than this one. And you can click on the address and delete it from the list as well. So you can clean that up as well. So yes, this will show those disabled IP addresses and the date disabled, which is nice. Okay. The system security settings. Again, this is kind of an additional information that you may want to set within your security settings. It's sort of an overview. It gives you the options and the values to set, but this is kind of, again, that extra step. This is where I'm just going to jump down here to the bottom. This is where if somebody, needs remote security, if they need to get into your system to, check some things out. This is where you would enable that remote support. Again, we don't promote doing that unless you know specifically what that person wants to get into your system for. We do have that. I don't know if there's any other, Chris, do you have any other information about that remote support?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
What I would say, really, generally speaking, there's not probably going to be any scenario in which
Right.
you as a district would be coming down and playing with this setting at all. You can see that remote support security. We have it so you can't even see something to turn it on or off. We just have disable remote support. Or we have that remote support security with nothing clickable, and then disable remote support turned on. And the only options you have are the disable and the temporary. Again,
Okay.
as Kim was mentioning,
wanted to make sure because
yeah,
I thought so, but yeah.
Right, and as you mentioned, functionally, like what we as Meta would utilize this for is, if for some reason we who have access with our own accounts to get into your system as an administrator, were unable to say fix an issue, and we needed to escalate this up to PowerSchool engineers. After the we'll just call it PowerSchool hacking debacle. After that all went down, there was some changes in policies, which included us basically locking this down. And now the way it works is, if we needed somebody from PowerSchool tech, like a PowerSchool engineer, to be able to even go into your sys to look at anything, we have to enable temporarily enable support. And if you click on that radio button, it's gonna kick on and say you're allowing remote support for this many days, with it automatically disabling it again after this date. So that again, the use case for this is essentially, at least in any scenario I've ever run into, just if we need to escalate something up so that PowerSchool engineers can get in and take a look at some of this stuff.
Okay.
I had this today, as a matter of fact. I had PowerSchool. I had put a ticket in and escalated, and so PowerSchool asked me to go ahead and escalate, or go ahead and give them remote access.
Mhm.
They do ask for 5 days when
Right.
PowerSchool is trying to troubleshoot for you. I will recommend that once the issue is resolved, because you may put in a ticket directly to PowerSchool, so you may come here and temporarily give them access. And if you do that, once the case is resolved, I do recommend coming here and not waiting for it to expire, but go ahead and turning it off.
And I'll say, in my experience, I can tell you the standard operating procedure, the SOP as it is, for PowerSchool engineers and PowerSchool support is, as soon as they are done with what they needed to do in there, they are supposed to turn it off and disable it for you as well. But that, as Christine had said, that's absolutely like a trust but verify situation. So,
okay. Thank you for adding that information on there. I wasn't sure exactly, if they could see what I can see on here. So thank you for that. At the top here, then we'll just go back up to the top. You can allow users to restore sessions that have been timed out due to activities. Here's where you can set that value. You can sign off administrative users after this many minutes of activity. We have ours set at 60. Same for our teachers. Parent and students, we have it set at 10. And then the unless specified otherwise for an individual, screen groups have this level of access. You can, again, there's a couple other settings here. Enable my data download for parents. Public facing yours may not say the same. Enable PowerSchool session cookies. And again, these are very specific settings. Like I said, it's more of a system settings overview that you're looking at here right now.
Typically, this is like, oftentimes set a configuration, and then most people oftentimes will never
once
even
it's
come
set,
in.
Never see it again.
Yeah.
Right.
Except for the remote.
And,
Yep.
And I'll tell you, with those sign off timers, again, great security feature. Definitely a good thing to keep in mind. teachers, they get busy, they get sidetracked, they step away from their computer, and students get ornery. It's great to have the ability to be able to turn that down. The only warning I would say is people will hate you for setting it. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
people
you
hate
set
that.
the
Like,
teachers
well,
for 10
I was
minutes.
only away for like 5 minutes. I'm like, well, you were away for 20 because it times out after 20, but still, like, people will hate you for that. But it is a great security feature. So
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if there are no questions about these particular items, I'm going to turn it over to Christine, and she's going to talk to you about groups and roles. Yay. That's what we're here for, right?
Yay. Groups and roles can get very confusing. So let me first figure out how to share my screen. We'll start with that. And okay, you seeing my screen okay?
Yeah, just
I do
got
now. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go over this last group, category group, user. Security groups, user roles, mass edit, user access roles, and list users by group. I'm going to start with security groups, and the same way you get to it: system management, security, and security groups. So the security groups define the access levels and permissions for users within PowerSchool. They control page level access, scheduling, reports, and so much more. Originally, security groups were the primary method for access control within PowerSchool before roles came along. Now that roles are here, best practice is to use security groups for permissions and use user roles for context. And we'll go through that a little bit later. One thing to note on your security groups, the maximum security groups the district can have is 500. I hope that nobody has 500 different security groups, but that is how many you can have. So I'm going to review how to add and edit a group, copy some security page permissions, configure page permissions, and override page permissions. So, excuse me, adding a new group, pretty self-explanatory. You're going to come up here and add a group. And it's automatically going to go to the next number in your series of groups that you have already added. So when you decide how many groups you want to add, you'll see how it works, the naming convention. So I said I'm going to add 4 groups, and it's going to add groups 67, 8, 9, and 70. If for whatever reason you were creating 4 groups that were all called, I don't know, secretary access, you can change that name here, but this is really just to create the shell of the extra groups that you may need when you're setting up your security groups. Now, with that said, you probably already have available security groups at your district. You probably have not used all of the security groups that were originally set up for you. So take a look at that before adding a new group. Maybe find a group that just hasn't been accessed yet, and you can go ahead and make changes to that group. Let me see. You know what? I am in Westerville because I was checking the current users, and I'm like, this doesn't look like it did earlier.
Yeah, this looks a little different.
I was like, wow, I'm glad you're both from Westerville, so no harm done there. But holy moly. All right, so let's look at these security groups. I'm like, I'm not seeing the ones I created. Okay, so we are going to look at just modifying an existing group. So you can see we have a lot of unused groups, and you can tell that because they're typically read-only. When all of these groups are made, they're pretty much the same information as on each of these groups. So then you would come in here and you would edit or modify, an existing group, which is actually the same as editing a new group. So you're going to come in here, and this used to be a lot more information in here before they came up with these 2 settings. So I'm going to go over those a little bit later, but just running down this page, you're going to come in here and you can change the group name, and you just want to run down each and everything. Do you want this group, let's say this is an administrative assistant group, do you want this group to be able to modify schedules? Not at all. Do you want them to be able to do it for this year? Maybe they're helping with scheduling. Or do you want them to have full access to that and be able to modify schedules in any year? Power scheduler access. Are they part of your scheduling team? Do you want them to have that access? You would check that here. I'm not sure what the language translator customizer is, so I would probably leave that blank unless Chris knows a reason that they would check that.
Yeah, I don't.
Don't know that anybody uses
myself
that.
either. Yeah.
So it's probably a customization for if you use the different languages that PowerSchool capabilities have. This next thing, the report queue priority, all this has to do with is this for this particular security group with all the other security groups. If people are running reports at the same time, who's going to get the higher priority? So you might want to have your certain people, certain groups that they have the highest priority if things are all happening at the same time, and then the lowest. I mean, you can leave everybody at 50. It's not really an important setting. Your quick search configuration is automatically going to come checked. So again, you would most likely want your group to be able to do their quick searches. So you would probably leave the information as is. But this is important. So the accessible log types. So if you're creating your group, and again, we're creating an administrative assistant group, which logs do you want them to have access to? So you can keep this completely blank. And where this gets confusing is if you don't have any of these checked, but if you then come into your configure page permissions, and I'll show you a quick example here. And you come over here, and I just want to sort out and look at logs, and my computer is lagging big time as well. So search log entries. Now you're going to see that under configure page permissions, this is set as group default. Group default is read only in this situation, but the group default does not come into play unless you have the box checked on this page. So if the box is not checked on this page, if no log types are selected in this area, users won't see them, even if the permissions are set to read only or edit. They just won't see them at all. So that's important to note. This kind of supersedes what's in the configure page permissions. The accessible log types are what users can see, and the configure page permissions are what users can do. So continuing down the page, we really don't use incident, but if you do you want this user to have access to be able to look at discipline and state reportable discipline? And then just your health and immunizations. What do they need to see and what do they not need to see? And so you go ahead and you would save your settings. And I'm not going to save that, but and that would be your security group set up. So another example is you can copy permissions from another group. So let's say you have a speech group and you are creating I don't even know, ELL group. And your ELL group, you want them to have the same exact security that your speech group has. So you can come up here, choose the group you want to copy from, and then you can come down here and choose the group you want to copy to. Okay, and you would just check the box and then you can copy the settings. And do you want to copy the group security settings and the page permission settings, one or the other? You have your options here. You can also filter if for whatever reason we don't have an EL group, but if you, no, we do have an email group. If you wanted it easier to find. And then you would just copy the settings and everything from the one group would be created in the new group. Okay, so that's, you know, pretty basic to set up a security group shell. Where it gets interesting is when you have to start giving them those additional page permissions. So we have a registrar group right here. So configure page permissions controls access to specific pages and functions based on a role. So the benefits for configuring page permissions, and Kim went over some of these earlier, restrict sensitive data. So you can prevent certain roles like teachers or office staff from accessing pages that contain confidential student or staff information. Customize the user experience. So if you have a nurse that doesn't need to see report cards and transcripts and all that stuff, you can hide irrelevant pages or features from users who don't need them. That just reduces clutter and confusion for that user. It is definitely enhanced security. Less is more. Kim said earlier, the least privilege. It's always easier when you're assigning security to a group of people to give them the minimum and add things as you find they need them. I know that if you give everybody the keys to the castle and then decide, oh, they shouldn't have that and that and that, it tends to get a little more sticky when you're taking security away. It's a lot easier to give security. So enhance security, limit access to administrative tools or configuration settings to only those who need them, reducing the risk of accidental or unauthorized changes. Another benefit is supporting role-based access control. So this aligns with best practices in IT security by ensuring users only have access to what they need based on their role. So a counselor would only have things they need to do counseling, a registrar, a nurse, and so forth. I am reading from my notes. I just wanted to add also that I did drop this mini agenda in the chat. And then Kim also put the full agenda in there as well. So if you wanted to pull those out, that is what I'm going over right now. And then the last benefit is just ensure compliance and auditing. I mean, it helps districts meet compliance requirements by ensuring only authorized personnel can view or modify certain data. So as you know, the access levels for each page permission is group default, no access, read only, or edit. Kim went over this earlier, so I'm not going to touch on it again, but with the configure page permissions versus enable page permissions, if you are in here and you are looking for a specific page or you're trying to troubleshoot access for somebody and you're having issues locating that page, go to your enable page permissions. Go directly to that page. Barb does not see the notes. Let me drop it again because I did drop it before you guys came in. And so maybe that makes a difference. Give me just a second here.
While she's pulling that up, I'll throw out just in navigating this.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you do ever have to come here, friendly suggestion. Hopefully I'm not stealing any thunder of yours, Christine, but you can see how she has everything collapsed and it seems to navigate pretty smoothly. If you expand all, it's going to get very chunky. You know, it's going to want to like run pretty slow. So again, that filter function is great. You can see all of those context filters and whatnot in helping break down and zeroing on where you really want to be, and not having to, you know, move the mouse and wait 5 seconds for it to catch up, you know. So
yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
So this configure page permissions is specific to a group. So Kim earlier went over setting configure page permissions for all groups. This is specific to the registrar group. So it's the same filters though, if you want to look at school pages or district pages, content, I'm sorry. and then main student staff or plugin. And then if you want to just look at, if you're trying to troubleshoot something and you want to see a no access, what does this group have no access to? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So you can filter down to no access, and then it's just going to show you the pages that they don't have access to. I'm going to check all those. Maybe. Okay.
I find that filter very, very useful too. Christine, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
When
Please.
we are troubleshooting things, I mean, as soon as somebody says they don't have, this group, doesn't have access to something, I go straight to that access level, use the no access. That's where I can find it very easy. So I just want to point that out too.
No, I agree. So right now, I'll do a search for immunizations. So you can see it's going to open up every page that has something to do with immunizations, and it's going to let me know what access this registrar has to those pages. So group default, and you come up here and look, their group default is edit. As you scroll down the page, you can see. Now, for example, let's say this is a nurse group we're looking at, and all of these pages are set to read only. You can check. You could filter out the pages that you want to change. You can check them all to group default and hit save and change all the pages at the same time. So that's the big difference between enable page permissions and configure page permissions. Enable, you could do one page at a time. You're working on one page at a time. You could come in here and you can work on groups of pages to make those updates. Another thing is, let me close this and take this away. Another thing you'll notice is, come on, in here, before you open things up, it'll tell you a little bit about the security in the underlying pages. So where it says mixed access, that means within school enrollment, there are pages that have different settings. They're not all group default. You have mixed access. So you can see right here for the registrar and I don't know why, I mean, again, this is the test database. Their group default is edit,
also you can edit.
and this is edit, but it would still show mixed access because it's set to edit. So anytime there's different settings within a group of pages, your top page is going to show you mixed access. So that also makes it nice to be able to go in and make those adjustments. I wanted to look at this one. So let's see. Yeah, so this is a no access. So, again, if you have a security group, you might have come in here. If you're setting up a security group for the first time, you need to decide. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can set every category to read only and then come back in and give them access just to the pages you want them to have. I mean, that could be a lot of work, but you would only have to do it one time. You can set everything to the group default. And in this case, the group default is edit, and then come back in and change just the pages you want to change. So you can do that right off the bat, get everything set to one access level, and then again, it's a bit of a tedious process. There's really no, I don't know, shortcut or best practice. There's a lot of pages. There's a lot of information. So, if you're the district leader, that's one of the things we ask of the district leader. Come in here, look at your security groups, look at their access. This is great. Like I can come in here and just do they have group default and edit access. And I'm just looking at the registrar. So I'm going to look down here and I can do a little audit real quick. Do I want the registrar to be able to export or build, I'm just throwing out things that they have full access to. Do I want them to have all this information? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. So again, you can change If you change from here, it's going to change everything listed in the subcategory. So if I want to change everything with EMIS reports to no access, it's going to tell me you are changing permissions for all sections. Do you want to change all the pages? And if I hit confirm, it's just changed all the pages. So you can start with your top line categories and switch things to no access or edit access, and then pick out an individual page. Well, I do want them to see this page, and you can change that back. So it really is whatever works for you, whatever your style of organizing this is. But we do recommend auditing your security groups, making sure that people don't have access to what they don't need. Do you think I missed anything with the configure page permissions, Chris?
I think you went over pretty much all the general stuff, unless you're digging into like a specific situation. So
no, I think we want to keep this.
Good overview.
Again, if you have very specific situations in your district that you want us to help you set up. I know a lot of times we get tickets for, I have a coach that would like to be able to see a student's grades. How do I get the coach just to see, students' grades? You don't want to give them, they might not even be an employee of the district, so you don't want to give them access to things that they shouldn't have. The second piece to editing your group is your overridden page permissions. So this kind of goes hand in hand with configure page permissions. So anything that is not the default, which for this one is edit, default group edit, anything that is different than that is going to show up here under your overridden page permissions. So you can filter out if you're looking for something, login attempts, security login attempts. That's something Kim just went over. This group does not have access to edit or look at that. You can change that here. So this is going to tell you any page that is overridden to something different than the default setting for that particular group.
Those pages, like looking at that, courses /white HTML. How would I know what that is?
That is a great question. I don't even know how to answer that, because honestly, it's trial and error for us as well, unless Chris has a great idea. But like some of them are pretty self-explanatory. But yes, we had something that was shut down recently. We had to escalate it, and the page, and this isn't things that like Meta has created. This is PowerSchool. So some of this stuff, there is no rhyme or reason. You're like, oh, that page goes with, trial and error. If you're looking to release a page for somebody in a security group, you want them to have access to this page. And, we've had to do this where you change it to read only, go back, have that person check. Well, does that, has that worked? For those obscure pages, I mean, some of them list yours, but some of them are self-explanatory. Yeah.
And you're going to look at the URL as well. So that's what you're looking at. Yeah. So everything previous to what's listed here would be your, ps-wvil.metasolutions.net/admin. All of that would be prefaced. So you would be looking at, when you're looking at the specific page itself, the end of the URL, that's what you would be looking at, that you would be restricting. Now, when you're like on student pages and stuff, it's going to have additional information after that HTML. It's going to have like a question mark and an FRN. That's because you're on a specific student's page. But if you wanted to restrict, quick lookup, I'm using a silly one for an example, it would be, quick lookup.html. So that's what you're looking at, is it's looking at that URL.
So if I connect this to the URL, it should take me to that page. There you go. Look at that, Sally.
Well,
so did you see what I did there?
Yeah, I was liking that. Honestly, I look at this and I'm like, oh, another day. I'll look at it a different day.
Yeah. So let's
it's effectively
see
like oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris. No, I was going to say, let's see what the mimes is all about. Like, who
Yeah.
knows?
Let's see
Do
what
you have
that
mimes in your district? Let's take a
not
look
that
at
I'm aware of.
Well, they're there.
Go
You
in
just can't hear
here.
them.
Yeah,
They
you
stay
just
hidden.
can't hear 'em. Uh-oh, what'd I do here?
No, effectively, when you turn on like that enable page permissions that we showed earlier
Well,
and
look
give
at
them
that.
page
You do
by
have mine.
page by page by page, it's almost like you're going into the group and you're seeing what you enabled and disabled for that group, or I guess I should say what you overrode from the default for that group. So, it's just a good way to see all of the pages that were modified from the basic default within the enable page permissions functions.
Yeah. Well, I love, like, I just learned that too, ladies, because, and I think I did, I think I learned it and then I forgot it, honestly, because I did, now that I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right.
We're training ourselves among training others. Let's just, I mean, we're
Absolutely.
givers here at Meta.
Yeah, so you do have mimes. And you can just come here then and see the path to that page, and it's under your server setup. So I'm going to go back to my security groups. Our counselor group. I think that was probably it for overridden page permissions. So yeah, so now you know how to find which page they don't have access to. Another thing here, again, you can filter, but you can also set. So let's say I'm looking for security. I want the counselors to have access to all. I've already checked these pages. I know I want them to have access to all of these pages. If you filter down to just those pages, you can come over here then and give them access for just those pages that you filtered down to and hit submit. So that makes it nice too. So you're not changing them one at a time. Any questions on setting up a security group?
I recently set one up and now I can see what I've done wrong. I made it very redundant. I'll fix it.
Okay. Any questions on it or just?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really sure when you're creating a group, like it felt very like, oh my God, what are they getting? Are they getting everything or nothing? I couldn't figure it out.
Right. Because this front page here, before this came along, used to have a lot more settings that you would set on this initial front page. And I don't know if I was around then, but then you would have to go through your enable page permissions to, kind of lock things down in your field level. It was a lot more cumbersome than it is now.
Very tedious.
Yeah. But when you are setting up a
group, so I didn't know,
No, I don't think it was really, it wasn't a thing probably when you created your groups.
Yeah.
So we have all security groups. One thing I do want to note is access level. You have a choice when you're setting up a security group to set up the security group with no access. And we've run into problems with that. So if the actual default setting is no access, it tends to block pages below that you might give edit access to. So best practice is to probably go with read-only access and then shut down or release the pages if you're looking for somebody to have minimum security.
Why we do some of that is like aid to a student with disabilities. We want them in their assigned building as an active staff member, but they don't get any access to PowerSchool. But PowerSchool feeds to Clever, feeds to Raptor, feeds to these other things. So like in an emergency, we know all the staff that are assigned to a particular building. So that is why we use the no access.
Okay, and that might be.
They just need to be accounted for, but they don't need to.
They truly need no access. Yeah. So yeah, typically there's some access needed, and that tends to hinder that. So, but for your situation,
the hard way about trying to give access to a field on a page where they have a lower permission for the page.
Right.
And that was with our Westfield City Schools enrollment page. I was trying to give just access to a couple of people to be able to change just the transport field.
Right.
That was a mess.
Yeah.
You guys figured that out for me.
It does. You can go in the weeds on security very quickly.
Yeah, it's almost like you need like 2 days away from the office to go through this, because especially a district like ours, we're so patchwork built that
Right.
Started with groups, then they introduced roles, and then
Right.
Right. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So security groups, like I said earlier, those came along first, and the roles came along later. Best practice, if you ever have free time, is to really go over all of your security groups. For example, you have several. Well, there's a subsecretary group. There's an attendance secretary group. There's probably office staff secretary. So you probably have, in general, 4 or 5 security groups that pretty much have the same access. And you want them, for the most part, to have the same basic access. So you could set up one group that would encompass the minimum that everybody needs that works in those types of positions. Then that's where roles come in. Roles is where you can add those additional features that you want the attendance secretary to have additional information with regard to attendance. You want the nurse to be able to look at immunizations. So you have your core secretary group, and it's the roles that you add on in order to give very particular access. So now what PowerSchool is saying, so any group, any security group that you have created, you should have a matching user role. So if you have a principal security role or security group, you should have a user role called principal. And we're going to go over and talk about user roles. So you go to system management, security, user roles, and then user access. So when you come down here, these are all the user roles we have in our train database. So if you have a principal group, you should have a principal role, and the principal role should be tied back to the principal group. And I'll explain a little bit later why that's important. So user access roles allow flexible control over what users can do in PowerSchool, allowing admin to tailor the specific needs of each building. So there's 2 types of roles that you can create. You can create a role with security attached to it, like I was just showing you, and you can create a role that's not linked to any security. So a reason that you would want one without security would be just for a specific task. So let's come in here and look at a couple of roles that are not attached to any other type of security. So we have, I gotta find it, unlock gradebook. So if we look at the role of unlock gradebook, manage lock reporting terms is checked. This role has no other security attached to it, or permissions, I should say, not security, other than enabling a particular person, if they have this role assigned to them, to be able to unlock and lock the grade books. So that's where roles come in handy. And I'm going to go through these tabs in just a second. Another good one is Power Teacher Pro. Well, actually, here, let's create a new role. So I want to create a role called Power Teacher Pro. And I want this to be, it's going to be read only. So I'm going to put that right in the description, or right in the name. And this will allow access to look at teachers' grade books, or Power Teacher Pro. Okay, so you go down your list here. We want to make sure it's enabled. We want to check Power Teacher Pro read-only admin access. So this will allow somebody to go in and to a staff member that's a teacher and click on their Power Teacher and be able to view everything that's in their grade book. There are limits to that, as you know, but this one role is going to give whoever you assign this role to access to look in the Power Teacher Pro. Security group assigned to this role. We don't want to assign any security. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. The Osborne died. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. The sound is not great, so please interrupt me if you need to. I'm not hearing very well through my speakers. You are fine. So security group assigned to a role, you would have to check this and then add the security group. We don't want to do that. We're not attaching any security to this. We're only giving them the ability to come into the Power Teacher Pro. So you can go down your list here, and we're not going to fill out anything else on this, and we would hit submit. So now if you take that role and assign it to somebody, and we'll look at that in a minute, you're giving that person, if they're using roles, the ability to do that. So I have saved this role. So those are a couple examples of roles that aren't linked to any type of security. A role that is linked to security directly controls access the user has in PowerSchool. The security group is the backbone, excuse me, for PowerSchool access. So creating roles and linking them to security groups allows admins to customize access for users at individual schools, override default permissions with more precise settings, and allow individual users to have multiple roles, role combinations in different schools. So let's look at, we looked at the principal, and we know that the principal role is attached to the principal group. So all the security in that group, this principal, if we give somebody this role, they're going to have that. So my example today is, hopefully, Mr. Barr. So Eric Barr is a principal that works at 2 different schools. Okay, so we want to give Eric principal access at his primary school, which is Meta 1. But at the other school, at the high school, he's not a principal, but he helps with scheduling. So we don't want him to have principal access at the high school. So you would come in here and you would look at his, well, first we want to make sure he has both of the buildings. So he doesn't have either one. So we're going to go ahead, and he's got Meta School 1 and Meta High School. Those are the 2 buildings I want to add to him. And I want to make Meta School 1 is his primary building. That's where he's the principal at. Okay. So then you're going to come under their admin access and roles. And right now you can see he's in default group 10. And his access for both of those buildings now, oh, where is it, my high school? Let me add my high school here, sorry. Okay, and actually, like, he's showing at 3 buildings, he's showing that he's a principal at. So I know he has no access to this elementary 3, so I want to just completely take away access on that. And you can come over here and delete that access. But I want him to have access in these two schools, just not principal access. So this is where roles will come in handy. So we are going to go ahead and go into his home school. And we are going to change him to, instead of his default group, to use roles. And we know that the principal role is attached to the principal group. So in essence, what we've done is given him the same exact security that he just had. He was in the default group, but now we're going to use roles. And now he's the principal and he has all that access. But we also want to give him at the high school some data export. We have some roles set up that allows them to export data with edit access. So we want to give him some additional access because he's the principal. So some of these will tell you there's no group defined. That means they're not attached to security, and some of them are. If we were to give him, let's see, he needs the same access. He needs to know everything about transportation. He's also in charge of helping with the buses. So we can add this role of transportation to him as well. Now you can see that's attached to the transportation security group. So now this one person has principal access and transportation access. It's whatever those two groups have under your security groups. He has access to both of those things because they're attached to a security group. And then in addition, he's got some access we're going to give him to change history. Now he can see it, but he can't edit it. There's no security attached. Does that make sense to everybody? I know it's really confusing when you're changing somebody from a default user group to using roles and how they play with each other.
I didn't realize I had to set up a role to match the group. And I think that's where I messed up on a group I just recently set up. So,
and when you set it up, Barbara, they probably didn't like this is kind of like, I don't know, within the last how many years, Sally, you might know when roles really became prevalent. But when you originally set up your groups, it really wasn't how they were working. You know, they were primarily focused on the groups.
And I actually never could really grasp the concept of it. But again, it wasn't my job. It's Linda, it was Linda's job. So
right.
I didn't worry about not understanding it. Now Melissa needs to understand.
All right. So now I've given him principal access and transportation access, and then a few other things just at his home school, school one. Then I can come down here. Again, we want to use roles. We don't want him to have principal access, so I'm not going to check principal access. I don't think I have a role called scheduling. Let's pretend we do. Let's say we set up a group that gives him scheduling access. I would just put, where is it? Yeah, data, no group, PowerSchool, this one, test. Yeah. So now if we hit OK, at the high school, he has whatever access, because this is attached to a security group. We're only giving him this role, but he has whatever is in that role because it's attached to that security group. Does that make sense? So at the high school, he can do this.
Do a little bit of this. Like if you're a secretary at your building, you're probably going to be office staff at another building.
Right. Right. So, all right, let's go back to user roles and look at them a little bit more. And this is really a hodgepodge just because it's our test database. So, it does get overwhelming with everything. But when you're setting up, so this is a district administrator role that was set up. And you can see on the front page, it'll tell you some additional information. that was checked when you set this up. So if we go into this, this particular role, if you're a district administrator, now this one isn't assigned to a district administrator, which normally you would think it would be, because you're going to change them over to roles. You still want them to have their district administrator access, but you also want them to be able to go into PowerTeacher Pro, lock reporting terms, allow extended tables, anything else you want them to be able to do, you will check on it here. The tabs across the top are additional features that you can give when you're issuing or when you're creating a role. So you might create a role that's just change history, and I think we had that as an example. So you would name the role change history. You would not give it, you would enable it, but you wouldn't give it any of this other access. You wouldn't allow it to be attached to a security group, but you come over to this next tab and you would check, can view change history. And then you even have more options. So you have the default, or do you want them to have specific pages that they can see change history on? So once you get that how you want it, don't forget to hit save. And now this role of, we're going to pretend it says change history, has change history access. So you could give that to an individual without changing their security group. Did you have a question, Barbara?
I'm just saying, yeah, I get it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Like I said, I can't hear very well, so I apologize. So that's, that's another nice way you can use a role. We saw a role earlier that we gave to that principal for importing and exporting. And there's many options here. So if you want to create a role that only allows this person to export, you would create that role, put the description in, come over here, leave all that other stuff blank, come over here, give them the ability to export. Again, it's going to give you all your page options. You can change your settings so you can see more pages. And now you've created a role that will allow whoever you assign this to be able to come to export anything you've given them. Typically, if you're doing an export and import, you can do that as one role. But if you have a reason where you want somebody to be able to export but not import, by all means, create two separate roles. Okay, and the last tab on here is for enterprise reporting. So if you want somebody to be able to manage enterprise reports, you are going to come in here and check this. If you manage enterprise reports, I don't know why the settings go blank, because I think they just all check.
Once you say manage enterprise reports,
yeah.
they can do that. So yeah.
But I wonder can you give them just a few then and not?
Yeah, you can give them access to specific enterprise reports, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. That's goofy. I don't like that.
Yeah, sometimes there's
yeah, you get the idea. It doesn't make sense in my brain, but yes. So it's all, or you can choose which pages you want them to, or which enterprise reports you want them to have. So let's leave that.
Christine, can we go back to can you click into one of those roles that are not associated with a group?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll go back into our unlock. Yeah, go ahead.
When you see this page and they are not associated or signed, the security group is not assigned, or the role is not assigned to a security group, unfortunately, you cannot go back and assign that to a security group.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I found out that the hard way. So then you would have to create another role and assign it to the group and maybe put it, do not use or something on this one. But
and you can delete roles if you need to. So
so I just wanted to point that out because I've done that.
No, that's thank you for reminding me. Yeah, it's true. And if you don't set it up the right way off the bat, you'll have to just redo it and then change it as needed. Yeah, excellent. Let's see, we have our district administrator and we come all the way over here to the right and we hit our information, and that tells us everybody in your district that has that role assigned to them. So that's another nice way to just audit who's doing what in your district, who has what, and so forth. Chris is going to go through some reports that you can run when I'm done, and he's got some really nice reports that you can run that will show you what type of security the users in your district have, again, just to help come in and audit. Another thing I wanted to point out is counselor. So obviously the counselor role would be marked as indicates a counselor role, and that makes sense. But this also allows you to assign them as a counselor. So if you're familiar with, and I don't know what it's under, but let's see, mass assign counselor. Okay, so if you want to mass assign a counselor to somebody and you come in here and hit continue and then say, hey, I want to assign them to Steve, and he's not in here. Why isn't he in here? He doesn't have that counselor role assigned to him. So that can be done by assigning a role that just has counselor access, or you can, add counselor access to the counselor role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. We
Yeah.
use that as a side note. They need to add mass unenroll because you can't make someone inactive in a building if they are the counselor for a withdrawn student.
I believe I took that ticket from you, Barb, a little while back. Yes. Super frustrating. Yeah. I wish we had a little more control over some of these things. Yeah.
I mean, people always say, oh, go to the enhancement request on the community, but I feel like that's a black hole. Nothing comes out of there.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a black hole. Yes. So that's roles in a nutshell. I mean, you can click on these different roles in your district and go across the tabs on the top. Make sure, the role has exactly what you want the role to have. And then when you are setting up your users, you would set them up in roles and assign them all the appropriate roles that would give them all the appropriate security. That's why roles are so much more flexible than just doing a default group. A user can have one default group, but a user can have as many roles as you want to give them. So that's really important to note. What else did I want to go over? Okay, so any other questions on roles and how they work with the security groups, or did I miss anything? Okay.
Not here right now.
So, I'm
learning a lot right now. So
good.
I don't
That's
know
what I like to
something. I
hear.
don't know that I don't know it.
Exactly.
So far, I've learned a lot.
Okay, good. So the next category is mass edit user access. So this is a little goofy to me. So, and I don't know, typically when you're talking security, you're really looking at an individual and what that individual security is. But I mean, if you have a group of people and you know that you want them to have the exact same thing, then some of these things could come in handy for you. So mass edit user access roles efficiently assigns and removes roles for multiple users. So mass assigning obviously adds roles without removing the existing ones, and it replaces the default access group if needed. Mass removing roles will remove selected roles, and if they don't have any other roles, it will default them back to their default security group. So let me get out of this because the steps are different from the building to do this as it is from the district. So let's go into school one. And the first thing you want to do is select your staff. So let's select my staff. And let's just grab a couple of these staff members. So let's say all 4 of these staff members do exactly the same thing. So then we're going to go to navigate to your system management, security, and mass edit access roles. So now it's going to tell you which possible roles you want to either remove or add. So you're just gonna, this is roles with security groups. So if you want every one of these people to have, and it'll tell you right here, you're doing it for the 4 selected staff members. You want them all to be, you know, this and this, and you can either assign or remove. Okay, so that's just a way to do things in bulk. And then you have your roles without security. So let's say you go back now and you're like, oh, I really do need for all my principals to have Power Teacher Pro. They need to have that access, and we don't have that set up. You can grab all of your principals and give them that role without a security group so that they could go in to Power Teacher Pro and help their teachers as needed. So you just move that over and assign it as needed. Any questions on that? Okay, so best practice, review the permissions, obviously, before assigning. You know, make sure you know what these roles do before you give them in mass. And then use the district if you want to do broader updates. So I'm at a building. This can also be done at the district. It's a little bit different. So let's do our staff again. I have my 3 staff, and I'm going to go the same route. And you see where it looks a little different. So now you're dealing with which maybe you want to give the group that you've selected a different building to have access to. You know, whatever your situation is, and it's going to be different for everybody. But you would select your building first. You'd come down here and hit next. You'd select the roles that you want to assign to those 3 people that you selected in those 2 buildings that you selected. And you would go ahead and either assign or remove. And so you see where this could possibly not be handy, because it's probably pretty rare that you're going to be working with groups of people. But you may. So here it is if you need it.
We may wind up like revamping our groups and roles and switching people into the new groups and roles.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. When you do your cleanup, it might come in handy for you. That's a good point. So the last thing I want to touch on before Chris goes into some of the reports is list users by group. So this is pretty self-explanatory. And again, Chris is going to go into some reports that talk a little bit more about, you know, how to pull this information out of our system. But this just tells you who's in what group. So just another way to kind of audit. We know Jennifer's in the counseling group. If you click on it, you can click on her name and get in and see that, you know, she's in the counseling group at all of these different buildings. So the only other thing I wanted to show you just real quick is just an additional tip. And if you are doing audits and changing things at some point in time, this might come in handy. I just found this out, but you can do just a search on here. And if you know the name of the role, select, it'll bring up who's in that role. So it's just a quick search option that you can do if you want to know who's in a specific role. But that's everything I had. I hope it made sense. It's really kind of hard to explain sometimes. It's a lot. It's a lot. But please, you know, like we said earlier, put in questions if you have any. We're happy to walk through specific situations. But I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand the the reins to Chris.
All right. Let's see here. That's what we want to share. Should be seeing my screen now. And
Sure
let
do.
me move the screen sharing controls out of the way so I don't drive myself insane. One moment. There we are. All right, so I'll take a few minutes to go over a few security reports and tools that you can utilize. This won't take us too long. I just want to go through a few things here that I believe are worth reviewing. Kind of have two areas that we're gonna go over. I'm gonna start with just kind of talking about login reports and tools. So this is focused more on kind of tracking. You know, if you have questions or concerns about people that have logged in or what's going on with them. So a couple of things. You know, one that we already touched base a little bit on. Again, that was if you go into system management, you go to security. Of course, that first one that's right there, a core report, is that current users. Again, obviously we have the question on that for Westerville with the server array. Interestingly enough, I jumped in. Barbara, you had mentioned that you didn't see. Who was it that you said you didn't mention? You weren't able to see logged in. Crystal Parish. When I jumped in and looked at this, it looked like I was able to see Melissa and Crystal, but not you. So I jumped into the Westerville instance for just a moment. So again, go figure. Definitely something to check on those server arrays. I'm not 100% on how those function, to be completely honest.
I don't know when I would ever truly need that, but
yeah, I mean,
and you only see partial depending on how you're logged in. So
right.
worth asking.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It piques my curiosity. So it's definitely something I'm wondering about as well. So I'll see. You know, like I said, like we mentioned, we've got the question written down here, and we'll dig into that and see what we can find after the training to try and get a little more information on that. But just wanted to make sure that you were aware. This is a nice tool to utilize just if you need to see who's currently logged into the system. It'll give you a breakdown of the type of user, whether that's, you know, obviously in our scenario here in this training environment, you're only going to see us as being logged in. You know, and so it's only going to show faculty, but it'll show faculty, it'll show, you know, students, you know, it'll show, I believe, all and everything. So just a quick way to kind of check and see who's logged into the system in the moment. Another report we have is the review sign-in attempts report. And I wanted to touch base on this because this is a pretty useful tool that I don't know a lot of people are familiar with. So if we click on system management, click on security, and then when we look under the access, there is a review sign-in attempts screen. So this review sign-in attempt screen can be pretty helpful. You can set to, so this will provide you, this basically provides information regarding access attempts when PowerSchool SIS is the identity provider. So again, obviously, if someone was logged in, if you're using like students through IDC and they're logged into Google and PowerSchool is not acting as the identity provider in that scenario, it's not going to show the login into PowerSchool through the Google account. You'd have to review Google's administrative tools to see who signed in on an account or who signed in at a certain time. But this does show with PowerSchool as an identity provider the login attempts. Again, you have date ranges that you can set, a start date and an end date. You can search by a specific IP address. You can search by different users, so you can look at specifically all users, just PowerSchool administrators, public users, parents. You know, depending on how you set it, you kind of have all of these options for different user types. You can search for a specific username, and I've had that come in handy a couple of times. As was mentioned before, you can set minimum of invalid attempts. You can set login results, so you can say, I only want to see successful logins. I want to see everything, or I really am only caring about what's failing. And then you can kind of determine the failure type. I wanted to show you kind of an example of this. So if I were to be, for example, if I'm in this system and maybe I'm wanting to review, I don't know, there's been some odd login activity. I want to see what the sign-in attempts have been. we'll say maybe I'm trying to do a broad search. So I come in here and I set it for, January 1st of 2025, and we're just going to look into the current year. I'm going to say that I'm only worried about these invalid login attempts. I don't know a specific username. I'm not looking for a specific type. And we're going to go ahead and run for all failure types. You're going to say, you can see when I run a search like that, it starts coming back, and now you can start seeing all of the login attempts that occurred. It gives you a specific date and timestamp, so you know not only the day that they signed in, but what the timestamp was. You get the source IP that they logged in from, and that can be really helpful. So, for example, you can see we're going through this, and you can see, M. Regan. So she was signing in, same IP address. There's nothing surprising there. You've got an IP address here. You can kind of see how all of these are going through. And as I'm scrolling down through this, let's say as I come through here, I note an example of, say maybe down at the beginning of April, we notice, hey, here's a scenario where we've got, in fact, let me do this. Let me add this here, because that's going to give me a lot more of what I want. So now we've gotten down here, and in April, we see, hey, there was login attempts. I see that there's a single IP address here over the course of a few different days where this same IP address, someone with the user admin, someone with the user train2, someone with the user meta. Now, obviously, we know what these are, but let's say we didn't. There's an L. Cox. We have all of these different attempts under different user IDs, but they're all with the exact same IP address. And maybe that's a flag for you. It's weird to me that one IP address is trying to get into so many different things. So, you might want to note that IP, you're going to have that and jot that down. But this is a great way to kind of go in, and we can see when those login attempts occurred. We can get an IP address on here and see if maybe there's something that we maybe need to dig in further. Maybe we're concerned, hey, we see all of these sign-in attempts from this IP address and then it fell off. Did they get in successfully at some point? Is there something that we need to be worried about here? Is that IP address now logging in as some other user and they're doing some nefarious things? So now you have this IP address that you can use to kind of start looking at something you might, maybe something that would concern you. Now, if we took that IP address, there's another report, and I'm going to get into here on this tool, I'm getting into something that is not a core PowerSchool tool. So be aware. This is something that I think pretty much every single one of our districts utilizes, but it is not owned by Meta. So as it stands right now, this is still a great report, but if anything were to ever happen and it were to start failing, the creator of the port would have to support it. But we're just going to kind of give you an example here. If I were to now take that IP address and we were to go into data and reporting, and I were to come over to the PSCB custom reports. Within PSCB custom reports, it doesn't list anything as blatant as like security. If you actually go into the system admin reports within PSCB reports, you'll find that there's a user login report. And this is another report that I think is just kind of super helpful in tracking user logins and just kind of looking at some of those kinds of things when you have concerns. So the user login report is going to allow you to search for login information using parameters of date, of time, of the login type, of the logout reason, and again, of the IP address. So let's say we said we want to start looking at, again, seeing if from that January to July timeframe, did that person successfully log in as under some account? Well, I can come in here and so I can say, let's set again that time frame back to January 1st. We're gonna go ahead and say all platforms. This show user agent gives a little bit more detailed data regarding the platform and some of the information about what they're logging in from. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. You might not necessarily have a reason to use it, but I'll just turn it on so you can see that. And in this case, let's go ahead and put in that specific IP report or that specific IP address that I grabbed from earlier. And we're going to leave this broad and just say all login types. Now, if I submit that, the good news is there was never anyone with that IP address during that time frame that actually logged in. So now we can say there was no user under this IP address. Now, did this even work, or is this just a failing report? I could come in here and say, I could come back. In fact, let's do this. Let me grab this IP. Let me try running a different IP address just to see if this is functioning at all, using the same parameters of the date time. Now, when I run that, do I see anything that comes back? Sure enough, hey, I logged in on the 16th under that IP address. So again, you know, we can see it does kick back with those. You'll note that you don't see me logged in here under the current, you know, my current IP address. I'm in a different location, so it's going to be a different IP. So it's kicking back a little bit differently. But you can just see again that this user login report is a convenient report for you to be able to search for users that have logged in. You could come in here and say, you know, I want to look for any users that haven't logged off. Submit that. You'll notice this time I didn't turn on that user agent, and you can see, hey, here's 3 people that haven't logged off. Sometimes you can come in here and say, you know what, why has someone been logged in for like, you know, hours upon hours? It doesn't really make sense. You know, there's some things along those lines. So just some useful information in reviewing user login attempts and reviewing, you know, just general security reviews when you're getting maybe odd things from IP addresses, anything along those lines. And the other thing you'll note, again, this difference here, you'll see it tells me the platform, because I had said, show me all platforms. When I give that other information, here's where you're again seeing, not only is it giving me a platform, but it's giving me some additional information about what somebody's running under. So, you know, the Mozilla 5.0, Windows NT, Windows 64, you can kind of see it's got, you can see some of this different agent information. So just some more detailed information that might help you if you are working on any kind of like security review or anything along those lines. So
Chris, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, and I think Barb saw it, but Sally was able to find, and she put it in the chat before she had to leave the meeting, how you can view current users via an enterprise report. So you might want to download that information and, you know, for the 2 folks that are on today, and see if that helps you find all the users that are on.
I can go ahead and copy that out of the chat.
Yeah. Let's take a moment to do that. Definitely. All right. And so again, just wanted to show you those 3 reports. I know the current users kind of was going over by all of us, but I think that is nice to have, just so you can see who is logged in at the moment. That can be helpful, especially if you know, we've had some scenarios. An example would be, say, end of year time. When we're running end of year processes, one of the first things that we'll do, right, you know, before we start going through the entire end of year process, is we as Meta Solutions will go in and we'll take a look at current users, because, you know, one of the things that we request is when we're doing a lot of work in this kind of thing, we don't want to have a lot of people logged in that could create, you know, potential issues. You know, if they change information while we're running an end of year process, that could create issues. It could be similar for you. If you're going in and you know that there's going to be something that's going down that evening, there's going to be some kind of major change or major, you know, something major that's happening. Just trying to provide another use case for that current user list. You know, you may want to go in there, and that way you can reach out to people and be like, hey, you shouldn't be logged in right now. You might want to jump out, but you can see that they are logged in. So
yeah, it
again,
looks like the user login report includes everyone as opposed to the current users, which is based on the array.
Right.
Fantastic.
I looked at it and we were all on the current user report today.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, I am going to actually go over a couple of other security auditing tools here. I'm going to jump back to our district home screen.
It's at 3, but yeah, still have like 5 more minutes. I can hang in there. Melissa, are you?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I can stay for about 5 more minutes on the call, but then I gotta hop off.
That's fine. I can wrap this up pretty quick then. I'll just show you these last 3 tools I wanted to go through. First one, if we go into system management, this is a core tool. So if we go into system management, we go to security. Again, we go to user, and this was mentioned earlier, the list users by group. Again, just to be aware, this provides a list of users with current sign-in access. So this is only looking at users that currently have sign-in access attached to a security group. As we mentioned, this is a great way to be able to kind of see everything along with the groups that they're assigned to as we go. I have a couple of other PSCB reports that I believe are worth taking a look at. If we come over into data reporting, and we go again to these PSCB custom reports, there is within that system admin section again, there is a security by group tool. This is super useful. I know some of the other stuff that we were talking about, we were looking at very incremental things. This allows you to provide a breakdown of student screen accesses by the group. So if we said, let's take a look at office staff, what student screens can they get into? Now you have a great simple way to look through and see what student screens can this security group actually get into and access. So this is just another method that you can come through and see what student screens are these groups being able to get into. You probably
really
don't
handy if you're going to do an audit. Yeah, really handy.
Absolutely. Yeah. The janitor probably doesn't need to be able to get into, like some of the health the health screens. But if they're in the system and they've got a yes here, they can. Just a quick and easy way to be able to kind of look through that. And this, again, with them being PSCB reports, I like these especially because you can export them, you can print them, you can filter up here for items as you need. So this is just a nice, pretty powerful report to be able to utilize for being able to see, again, what student screens security groups had access to. Similarly, within PSCB reporting, again, data reports, PSCB custom reports, there is, within system admin, there's also one called the admin user list. So again, this is providing a breakdown of role assignments for each user of the selected security group. So you come into an office staff, and now you can run a report with all of the roles. We were talking about how it's kind of hard to see all of that incremental stuff. And if you're wanting to audit things, having the ability to come in here and now provide that breakdown and be able to export that in a nice, clean way. Again, just one more tool that's going to come in real handy in taking a look at what roles these people have access to based on the security group that they're assigned to. So just wanted to show some of those tools available that you have. Just again, good ways as you're looking at security and you're thinking about auditing and maybe changing things, some good convenient ways that you could dig through and do some, just a good way to do some additional auditing, especially if you want to print it out and kind of go off of it, have things offline or have a digital copy that you could share to be able to use, outside of PowerSchool directly to work with your teams on, who still needs access to what kind of thing. So just wanted to share those as tools useful for that. And those are kind of the quick reports that I was going to recommend outside of what's already been shown for you. And that puts us right at 3 o'clock. So,
all right, open it up to questions. Anybody have any questions that we didn't cover?
I think I'm good.